Hi and welcome back to Imagination Arts. In this video today we're going to be going over how to gesso a cheap canvas and prepare it so that you can do great paintings on it. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go over the materials you'll need for this. First, you're going to need the canvas, whichever that might be from Walmart or online, wherever. It's just a canvas that has not been pre-gessoed or prepared to be painted on. You'll need the canvas. You'll need a foam brush, which you can purchase at Walmart or any hobby store. You'll need a cloth rag and some sheets of 150 grit sandpaper and some 200 grit sandpaper. Sometimes you don't really need to use the 200 grit, but I like to have it just in case. Then you will also need a bottle of liquid Tex gesso. You can get this in different sizes via Amazon. You can also purchase this at hobby stores or art supply stores online or other art supplies locations. Okay, so in this video today I'm going to be going over how to gesso and prepare a canvas. These could be cheap canvases that you maybe purchased at Walmart or online that have not been prepared ahead of time. If you buy a cheaper quality of canvas, one that hasn't already been prepared, unlike the Fredericks canvases, which have already been gessoed and are ready to go. If you buy the cheaper canvases, what you want to do is you want to get some of the Liquid Tex gesso. You can get this online through Amazon and other sites. This is just I believe this is a 16-ounce bottle, and you want to shake it up good to make sure it's good and shaken up and it's not separated. And then I'm just going to squeeze some of it onto my canvas, and then I'm going to take the foam brush that you can purchase at any store. You can purchase this at Walmart or any other stores. And then I'm just going to go back and forth and up and down and back and forth motions, making sure I'm getting the edges really good, making nice and smooth strokes, just pulling it all out to the edges of the board and making sure I'm getting those edges nice and good. And then once I have it all spread onto the canvas real nice and even, then I'm just going to go back and forth in nice and even strokes. First I'm going to go in up and down strokes and then side to side strokes, just making sure it's getting spread good and even across the canvas. So you want to make sure that it gets into all those crevices. Then once I've done that, then I just set it aside, let it sit there and let it dry. And then I'm going to put a second coat on and spread that in around the canvas good, going in just different strokes right now, trying to get it spread evenly across the canvas. And then once I get it good and spread onto the canvas, then I just go again in the side to side strokes and up and down strokes, and then again in the side to side strokes to make sure that I'm getting good even coat on there. Then once I have that second coat on there, then I'm going to test it once it's dried. Again, checking all those edges, making sure. I noticed there were some areas at the bottom and on the corners that did not get good coverage, so I'm just going over those again. And now that that's dried, I'm going to do a second coat to make sure that it's good and coated and that all the crevices of that canvas are covered and that I've got a nice even coat. So you want to do 2 to 3 coats of this, and as you're going in between coats, you want to, after it dries and you've sanded it, you want a feel of it, and you want to make sure that there's no ripples or bumps on the canvas. You want a nice smooth canvas. And again, just going in those back and forth, side to side strokes, holding the edge of the canvas with my fingers to keep it from moving around as much as possible. letting it sit there and dry, and you want to make sure that it's good and dry. So you want to let it set for a while, and you can kind of touch it to see if it's drying. And then now that I've let it dry, I'm going to take the 150 grit sheet of sandpaper, and I'm just going to use this one sheet, and you can buy this at Walmart or any hobby store or at hardware stores. And you just want to lightly go in circles and back and forth motions. And you may want to, you can either do this with your hand, and I'm not applying a lot of pressure, I'm just barely brushing the top of the surface. You don't want to use any force. You just want to go lightly across the surface, and you want to make sure you get all the edges. And you can, if you fold it in half, it makes it easier to hold. Some people will take it and fold it around a wooden block and use the wooden block to do it. I'm just using the sheet by itself and folded it in half, and just kind of going in back and forth motions, up and down and sideways, and in some circular motions, and just getting all the edges, going over the whole canvas, sanding it down. And then once I have it sanded down, you can see that it leaves this powdery residue on the top, so you want a rag and just wipe off the powdery dust and the residue from the top. Then once you've wiped it off, then I put a third coat of the gesso down and spread it all over the canvas, and just repeat what I did for the first two layers. Just pull right now, just holding it and pulling it out toward the edges. And then once I have it pulled out toward the edges of the canvas, then I will start going in up and down and side to side motions. And then once you have it all spread evenly across the canvas, you're going to want to go back and forth in side to side strokes to have a good smooth surface. You're going to want these to all go in one direction on the final coat, on the final layer, before you let it dry. So that way you don't have a bunch of streaks in the surface of your canvas. And again, there you go, going back and forth in those side to side motions, just pulling it from one side to the other so that I have a nice smooth stroke and a nice smooth surface. Then I'll lay that aside, and I will just let it sit there and let it completely dry for at least a couple of hours. Then once it's dried, then you're going to take your 200 grit sandpaper, and you're going to fold that in half, and you're going to repeat the process as we did with the first layer, just using really light touch, not pressing down, not using any pressure, just letting the sandpaper glide across the top of the surface. You just want to remove the top layer. All you want to do is just smooth out any rough areas, any bumps from the raised ridges of the canvas. And when you're done, you're going to want to feel this, and you just run your hand across it. And if you feel any rough areas or any peaks, just take your sandpaper and go over those areas until you have a completely smooth surface. You want to make sure you get all those edges and those corners, because you don't want to have any of the peaks from the underneath canvas raising up. Again, you want to have a nice smooth surface to paint on. This will allow your paint to stick to the surface and not soak into the canvas, so that it retains its brilliance and its color, and it protects the underlying linen on the canvas. When you just use a straight canvas, it's going to soak up the water, causing the canvas to slowly deteriorate. So and there you have a prepared canvas for ready to paint.